In the golden age of maritime exploration, kings commanded armies and conquered lands. But at sea? At sea, power belonged to those who could read the stars, predict the monsoons, and navigate the invisible highways of the ocean. Two men, separated by geography, culture, and centuries, became legends not through conquest, but through mastery. Their names were Ahmad ibn Majid and Zheng He. And the oceans they conquered changed the world forever. Masters of the monsoons, navigators who ruled the seas through science, stars, and seasonal winds, the true power behind ocean empires. Before the age of steam engines and GPS, the ocean was a mystery. A ship leaving port had no guarantee of return. Thousands died in storms, drowned in currents, or simply got lost in endless blue. But a skilled pilot? A pilot could read the water like a book. They knew where the currents flowed, which stars guided which routes, and most importantly, they understood the monsoons. The monsoons were nature's gift and curse. For half the year, winds blew northeast, pushing ships toward Africa. For the other half, they reversed, driving ships toward India and beyond. A king with 1,000 soldiers was helpless against these winds, but a pilot who mastered them? That pilot held the key to empire. This is why pilots were revered, feared even. They weren't just sailors. They were scientists, mathematicians, and cartographers. They held secrets, and those secrets were worth more than gold. In the Arabian Peninsula, around the year 1432, a boy was born into a family of pilots. His name was Ahmad ibn Majid. His father, his uncles, his grandfather, all navigators. But Ahmad would become something more. He would become a legend. By his 20s, Ahmad had already sailed every major route across the Indian Ocean. He knew the monsoons like they were his own heartbeat. He understood the stars so intimately that he could navigate on the darkest nights. But what made Ahmad truly extraordinary was this: he wrote it all down. In 1462, Ahmad ibn Majid completed a masterpiece, Kitab al Fawa'id, or the Book of Useful Information for those interested in the science of navigation. It was revolutionary. For the first time, the secrets of ocean navigation were recorded in detail. How to use the astrolabe, how to read the stars, which constellations marked which latitudes, the behavior of monsoons month by month, safe harbors, dangerous rocks, everything. This wasn't just theory. Ahmad wrote from decades of personal experience. His book became the Bible of Indian Ocean navigation. Arab pilots studied it. Persian pilots copied it. It spread across the maritime world like wildfire. Ahmad ibn Majid spent decades commanding trading voyages. He fought pirates. He survived storms that would have sunk lesser ships. He guided merchant vessels laden with spices, silks, and gold across thousands of miles of open ocean. He established routes. He mapped coasts. He became, quite simply, the most respected navigator in the entire Indian Ocean world. But here's where history gets interesting. In 1498, a Portuguese explorer named Vasco da Gama arrived on the East African coast, searching for a sea route to India. His maps were crude. His knowledge of the monsoons was non-existent. His ships were in danger. He needed a pilot. And he hired Ahmad ibn Majid, or someone from Ahmad's school of navigation. The exact details are debated by historians, but one thing is certain. An Arab pilot guided da Gama across the Arabian Sea to Calicut. That pilot's knowledge came directly from the traditions Ahmad ibn Majid had documented and preserved. Without Ahmad's accumulated knowledge, without his written guides, the Portuguese might never have reached India. Without that voyage, the entire age of European maritime exploration might have unfolded differently. Ahmad ibn Majid lived into his 60s or 70s, elderly for the time. He spent his final years teaching, writing, and preserving maritime knowledge. He died around 1500, just as the European age of exploration was beginning. He never knew that his work would help launch the very forces that would reshape the world. but his legacy endured. Ahmad ibn Majid proved that knowledge, not conquest, was the ultimate power at sea. Thousands of miles away in China, a different kind of maritime revolution was unfolding. In the early 1400s, the Ming dynasty was at the height of its power. The emperor, Zheng He, wanted to project that power across the world, and he needed an admiral. Zheng He was born around 1371. He was Muslim, from a military family, and he had risen through the ranks of the imperial navy with exceptional skill and loyalty. When Emperor Zheng He decided to launch an unprecedented series of ocean voyages, Zheng He was chosen to lead them. What Zheng He commanded was staggering. He wanted ships, massive ships, larger than anything Europe would build for another century. He wanted fleets. He wanted to establish Chinese naval dominance and expand trade across the Indian Ocean. Between 1405 and 1433, Zheng He commanded 7 major expeditions. The largest fleets included over 300 ships. Some treasure ships were reportedly over 400 feet long, 4 times the size of Columbus's Santa Maria. These weren't warships designed for conquest. They were floating cities, designed to impress, to trade, and to demonstrate Chinese superiority. Zheng He's fleet sailed from China, down through Southeast Asia, across the Indian Ocean, to India, the Arabian Peninsula, and all the way to East Africa. Entire fleets would dock at ports, unload Chinese silk, porcelain, and tea. They'd receive gifts, sometimes tribute, from local rulers. They mapped coasts. They established relationships. They showed the world that China was a power to be reckoned with. The treasure fleets brought back wonders: giraffes from Africa, spices from India, exotic animals and goods that had never been seen in China. These voyages weren't primarily about conquest or plunder. They were about prestige, trade, and the assertion of imperial authority. To navigate these massive fleets across thousands of miles, Zheng He relied on cutting-edge technology. The Chinese had invented the magnetic compass centuries earlier, and by Zheng He's time, it was refined to remarkable precision. The Chinese also possessed advanced star charts, detailed maps, and a sophisticated understanding of monsoon winds, knowledge that rivaled, and in some ways exceeded, that of Arab navigators. What made Zheng He exceptional wasn't just his seamanship, it was his leadership. He commanded hundreds of ships and thousands of men. He negotiated with rulers. He maintained discipline across vast distances. He brought back diplomatic missions and established relationships that would benefit China for years. He was, in every sense, an admiral, not just a pilot. His voyages reached as far as the coast of East Africa. Some historians argue his fleets may have ventured even further, perhaps rounding the Cape of Good Hope, perhaps even reaching South America. The evidence is debated, but what's undeniable is this. Zheng He's expeditions demonstrated that China possessed the naval capability and navigational knowledge to explore and dominate the entire Indian Ocean. But then everything changed. Emperor Zheng He died in 1424. His successor, a new emperor, had different priorities. There were wars inland. There were economic pressures. And crucially, there was political opposition to the massive expense of the treasure voyages. Zheng He led one final expedition in 1433, at over 60 years old. He died during or shortly after that voyage. And just like that, the age of Chinese maritime exploration came to an abrupt end. The treasure fleets were decommissioned, the shipyards fell silent, China turned inward. It's one of history's great what-ifs. If China had continued these voyages, if the treasure fleets had kept sailing, how different would the world be? Would Europe have had the opportunity to become the dominant maritime power? Would Africa and Asia have developed differently? Zheng He died in obscurity, at least by imperial standards, but his voyages proved something crucial. In the early 15th century, China was the world's greatest maritime power. Not Europe, China, and a single admiral, Zheng He, demonstrated the incredible capabilities of Chinese navigation, shipbuilding, and maritime organization. Ahmad ibn Majid and Zheng He lived in different worlds. Ahmad was an Arab navigator operating in the long-standing traditions of Indian Ocean trade. Zheng He was a Chinese admiral, commanding imperial resources on a scale never before seen. But they shared something fundamental. They were masters of their craft. Both relied on advanced navigation technology. Both understood monsoon winds intimately. Both commanded respect and authority. Both expanded maritime knowledge and mapped routes that would shape trade for centuries. But here's the critical difference. Ahmad ibn Majid preserved and documented his knowledge. His writings survived, were copied, and influenced navigators for generations. Zheng He, on the other hand, commanded fleets of unprecedented scale and demonstrated that a single nation could dominate entire ocean regions. His voyages were more ambitious, more visible, more imperial in scope. Yet it was Europe, not China or the Arab world, that would ultimately dominate the age of exploration. Why? That's a complex question involving politics, economics, and geography. But it's worth noting, the knowledge that enabled European exploration, astronomical navigation, cartography, ship design, was built on centuries of work by pilots like Ahmad ibn Majid and admirals like Zheng He. Neither Ahmad nor Zheng He were Europeans. Neither commanded European ships. But the world they explored, the routes they mapped, and the knowledge they preserved became the foundation for the age of exploration that would follow. So what exactly did these masters use to navigate? Let's look at the tools of the trade. Both Ahmad ibn Majid and Zheng He relied on the astrolabe, an ancient device that measured the angle of stars above the horizon. From that angle, a skilled navigator could determine latitude with remarkable accuracy. The magnetic compass, invented in China centuries earlier, allowed navigators to maintain direction even when stars weren't visible. By Ahmad's time, Arab navigators had refined compass use to high precision. By Zheng He's time, Chinese compasses were even more sophisticated. Arab navigators like Ahmad also used the kamal, a simple but ingenious device, a wooden board with a knotted cord. Hold it up to your eye, move backward or forward until the board aligns with the horizon and a star, count the knots, and you have your latitude. It required no complex calculations, just experience and a steady hand. Finally, both traditions relied on pilot books, detailed written guides describing routes, hazards, monsoon patterns, and safe anchorages. Ahmad ibn Majid's Kitab al Fawa'id was the most famous, but Chinese navigators also maintained detailed written records. Together, these tools created a system. A pilot could determine his latitude from the stars, maintain his direction with a compass, reference written guides, and calculate his position with precision. It was navigation as science, not guesswork. The impact of these two navigators extended far beyond their own voyages. Ahmad ibn Majid's documentation of Indian Ocean navigation became the standard reference for centuries. Pilots studying navigation in the Ottoman Empire, Persia, and Arabia learned from his writings. When Europeans began exploring the Indian Ocean in the 16th century, they encountered pilots trained in the traditions Ahmad had established. Zheng He's voyages, though they ended after his death, proved that long-distance maritime trade was possible on an enormous scale. His fleets brought wealth back to China and demonstrated the feasibility of oceanic exploration. Though China withdrew from maritime expansion, other nations, particularly Portugal and Spain, took note of what Zheng He's voyages had achieved. In many ways, the age of European exploration was built on the foundations laid by navigators like Ahmad ibn Majid and admirals like Zheng He. These men proved that the ocean could be conquered through knowledge, technology, and determination. They mapped routes, they documented techniques, they established that maritime trade could be profitable and that distant lands could be reached. Even today, the legacy endures. The ocean routes Ahmad ibn Majid navigated are still used. The principle that wind and current patterns can be predicted, fundamental to his success, remains true. And the idea that knowledge is more valuable than force, the lesson both Ahmad and Zheng He embodied, remains timeless. Ahmad ibn Majid and Zheng He lived centuries apart. They commanded different ships, served different masters, and explored different waters. But they shared an obsession to understand the ocean, to map its secrets, and to navigate it with precision. Kings commanded armies, but these men commanded the ocean. And in doing so, they changed the world. If you want to learn more about maritime history, ancient navigation, and the explorers who shaped our world, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching. If you want to learn more about maritime history, ancient navigation, and the explorers who shaped our world, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching.